Hey guys, welcome to Mindset Monday. So this is a session today that when in these sessions, I like to talk about different tools, different methods, mindsets, tactics that we can use to change the way, well, ultimately to assist us in whatever our goals are, or whatever outcome we're wanting to create in life. There are different techniques, there are different methods, there are things that we can learn that are going to help us to more easily achieve those goals. And now in today's session, there's nobody here today in the session live, but I wanted to create this recording for you because I know there are a couple of guys in the session, or in the community, I should say, that are wanting or needing some help with clarity, like figuring out what it is that they um, should be working towards, how they can achieve their goals. So first defining like what is the goal. Um, if it's in the case of wanting to create a new business, what should that business perhaps look like? How should they go about it? We've got a member who I've just actually finished having a wonderful one-to-one session with, who is looking to expand his business into a new market and is wanting help with the not only just the tactics of like how to go about that, but very much like figuring out what it is within himself that is stopping him from taking the actions that he already knows he needs to take. And this is what I created this community for us. So often we know what the next step is. We know the things that we should be doing, and yet we struggle to take those actions. And uh, how do we overcome that internal resistance? How do we train our minds in a way that brings them on our side? Want to get our mind on our side. We want to be able to go after because a lot of the time it can feel like we're kind of fighting with ourselves. And this community and these trainings are very much here to help you with achieving that outcome, to get your mind on your side, to make it so much easier and more enjoyable to work, to build a business, to build a loving, supportive relationship, whatever it is that you're aiming at in life. Having these tools are going to really help, because ultimately it's all mindset. So today's a bit of an interesting session because I'm outside at the moment. I'm on a balcony. It's very windy here. There's quite a lot of construction noise going on. So hopefully you guys can hear me in the recording. I can see my camera shaking around a bit. So hopefully it's not going to be too disruptive, and you'll take something from the session. I've got this beautiful view out here. Maybe I can kind of switch the camera around here. I've got my camera on a tripod, so let's see if I can do this just to give you an idea of what I'm looking at. So if you can see there, whoops, basically got this beautiful view out here. Not sure if you can see out there. Basically, that's Corfu out there. I'm on the Albanian coast. To give you a bit of an idea of where I am and what I'm looking at. But I'm out here because my fiance is inside on an important call, and so she needed it nice and quiet in there. So anyway, let's jump into the session. This really is about perception. It's about how we as humans view the world and how we navigate reality, because a lot of people will think that we just see the things that are out there, right? I'll see a window behind me or a wall. I see everything in an objective sense, but that's actually really not the case. We see things, we see reality in relationship to the goals that we are pursuing, both short-term goals and medium long-term goals. And the things that we notice in reality, the things that we notice when we're going about our day, for example, depend on what we are prioritizing at that point in time. So, for example, if you're hungry, you'll be paying attention to food and smells that smell like food, and you'll be hyper vigilant for anything that is uh, that might be food, right? And the reason that this is important or to understand is that when you train your mind to notice the things that are most important to you, so rather than it just being your immediate gratification, like you're hungry, when you can train yourself to have your ultimate goals in mind, and you prioritize that in your subconscious, then you're able to spot opportunities. You're able to spot ways to move closer to that goal. You're able to spot things that are going to help you in achieving your goal. And so it's a really powerful method of essentially training yourself to notice the right things, training yourself to see the reality that is most conducive to the achievement of your ultimate long-term goals. So you can see here, I've got why the what matters, but not the how. This is really important. What do I mean by that? It's a bit of a mouthful, intentionally so. The what is our goal. What is it that you're trying to achieve? What is it that you want your life to look like? What is it that you want your business to look like? What your relationship, whatever it is, it's first really important to know, it's fundamentally important to know what the goal is. Because if you don't have the what clear in mind, you don't have that goal clear in mind, I like to think of it as like a North Star. You have the North Star that sets the direction. And the direction, if you keep the direction in mind, then no matter what happens in the meantime, no matter what obstacles you face, no matter what challenges, you'll always be able to find a way to that objective. And that's fundamentally important. Sorry, there's a lot of noise here. Hopefully the school noise cancelling feature is doing its job. So, but a lot of the times we get stuck and we get hung up on the how. We'll think about what we want to achieve and immediately start concerning ourselves with how we can possibly achieve it. We've really established the goal in our minds, in our subconscious. Now, the problem with that is you end up in a state of, a lot of the time, analysis paralysis, where you're constantly thinking about all of these different elements without having an idea of how they fit together, without having an idea of how they're really going to help you towards your goal, because you don't really know what the goal is, not on a subconscious level. And often that's off-putting. You either become overwhelmed, you don't do anything, or you'll go off chasing the wrong thing because you're trying to do everything with your conscious mind, your cognitive ability, and you're ignoring how most decisions are made, how most of your actions, how most of your life is created, which is your subconscious mind. That I think it's something like 95 or 97% of your decisions and actions are predicated on what happens subconsciously, right? Your subconscious controls something like 95, 97% of everything that you do and believe and all the rest of it. So it's important to get the subconscious properly primed and properly trained before you set about trying to think about stuff. So let me just change to our next slide here, and we'll jump in. So how do we actually see and navigate reality? Well, it's broken up into three main components. We see the way that our perception really works is we see reality in tools, pathways, and obstacles. So what that is if you have a goal, your goal, when you have a goal, you start to see pathways towards that goal. You'll start to notice things that are going to help you to achieve that goal, and you're going to see things that are going to get in the way, right? Obstacles that are potentially going to hinder your forward movement. Now, when you're moving towards your goal, you feel good about yourself. Okay, you have that dopamine, you're feeling confident, you're moving forward in the right direction, and that your subconscious, your body signals that to you, and you feel good about it. Now, if there's something that gets in the way of you achieving your goal, let's say, for example, you're wanting to be an athlete and then you break a leg. That's now an obstacle. That's something that is stopping you from moving towards your goal. And that will be signified to you in a whole lot of anxiety. So you start to feel really anxious, you won't be able to, a whole lot of negative emotion. And you can think of negative emotion as the signal that you're not moving towards your goal. Okay, that's where this very loud motorbike's going past. So yeah, think about like positive emotion is a signifier that you're moving towards your goal. Negative emotion is the signifier that you're either not moving towards your goal or you're staying put and your goal is maybe moving further off into the distance. But tools, pathways, and obstacles, those are the three, the way that we view reality, the three components. You'll see here, so I've sort of outlined this here with a couple of visuals. We've got the goal, which is the cake. We've got a tool, which is the chair. You, of course, here is this beautiful little stick figure. And you've got a zombie as the potential obstacle to overcome. So let's say, for example, you're wanting to get your cake. Your cake is hiding up here in this top cupboard. Well, when you see a chair, I said at the beginning that we view reality in relationship to a goal, and objects are completely context dependent. They are, you might think that you see a chair as a chair, but there's always a subjective meaning attached to that object, and that meaning changes depending on what the intended goal is. So if you're looking for a place to sit, then a chair is a chair in the sense that we understand it. But then so might a log be, a tree stump becomes a chair as far as we're concerned. Now, in this case, for example, you're trying to reach the cake in the top shelf. Well, a chair is a tool. It's a tool that you can use towards to achieve your goal, which is getting cake. But the chair is not a chair in this case. It's more like a ladder, right? It takes on the context of a ladder and the meaning of a ladder. Now, that might seem a little bit sort of funny and unclear. So I'll take you to the next slide and where I can make this perhaps a little bit more visual. So in the case of an attack by a zombie, now all of a sudden, if you're in a room with a zombie and a chair is no longer a place to sit, right? The context has completely changed. The chair is now a weapon. It's a way to defend yourself against the zombie, and it's still a tool, but the tool is completely different, and it's different based on what the goal is, based on what the intended outcome is. Now, this is really important to note for when it comes to priming your subconscious properly and towards achieving a goal. So I'm just going to close down this presentation because that's the end of my slideshow. Like I said, I've put this together pretty rapidly. So let's get back to, there we go. It's just me and you. So why is this important? Why is it important to understand that the way that we see reality is dependent on the goals that we set? It's important because if you are in a situation where you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling like all you're noticing are obstacles, things that are getting in your way, a lot of the time that can be because you haven't set the right goal. Or it can be that in order to achieve your goal, you have to know what it is. And when you know what that goal is, really on a subconscious level, what your subconscious starts to do, we know this from neuroscience as well. We have an area of the brain called the reticular activating system. It's like the filter for the brain that tells you what to pay attention to and what to ignore. If you've primed your subconscious to on the what, okay, your ultimate goal. Let's say you're wanting to build a business, a specific business with a specific outcome in mind, and you've trained your subconscious to see that outcome and to prioritize that outcome. Well, what your brain starts to do, particular activating system starts to do, is it starts to spot objects, so tools, I should say, things that are going to help you, and it will also spot the obstacles, right? And it will start to look for pathways, tools that go. That's windy. And those obstacles, the things that, those tools, the things that we could use to achieve our goals, we're able to see them as tools only because of the context and the goal that we're pursuing. So if you're pursuing the wrong goal, right? So let's say you want to achieve a successful business, and you have an outcome in mind, but you haven't really trained your subconscious to recognize that. It's kind of like it's a wish, it's like, oh yeah, I'd like to have a successful business, right? But really, you're constantly prioritizing other things. What that means is that you're not able to spot the opportunities. You're not able to spot the pathways. You're not able to spot the tools that are going to take you towards having that successful business, because your filter, right, the reticular activating system is the filter by which we view what is and isn't important to us, is filtering out the tools and the pathways for that goal, because it's not our priority, right? You're noticing things that will help you to, I don't know, have a relaxing afternoon or get some food. So the first step, this is what I want to sort of emphasize here. The first step in being able to achieve a desired outcome is to really know what that outcome is, and to remind yourself to establish that in your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Because when you do that, the how, this is why the how isn't really relevant, the how will be revealed to you. Your subconscious, your perception, will start pointing out things to you that are going to help you towards achieving your goal. You'll just start to notice stuff, right? You'll notice stuff that you didn't see before, you didn't notice before. Your ideas will pop into your mind when you speak to somebody about how, maybe they said something, and if you were focusing on your lunch, you wouldn't have paid attention to it. But because you're really fixated on achieving that business goal, for example, you notice something that they said that is a potential opportunity for you, as a potential pathway towards your goal. So if you're out there, I want to wrap this up so it's not too long, but if you're currently really struggling to figure out, like, how do I achieve my goal, right? How do I achieve X? The trick is not to focus on the how. Don't focus on the how. Your conscious mind is it's not powerful enough to really be able to chart the way forward. That's what your subconscious is for. What your job is with your conscious mind is to train the subconscious to pay attention to the right things. And in later meetings here, content that I put out, as well as in the coaching that I teach, one-to-one stuff, I teach you how to train your subconscious, how to prime your subconscious so that it pays attention to the right things. So my advice to you is really think about what it is that you're trying to achieve. Forget about the how. The how will start to appear once you have it prioritized in your mind. Okay? All right. Well, I hope that's helpful. I'm really curious. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you've got any questions, of course, hit me up. Happy to help. Happy to clarify anything that that wasn't clear enough in the video. Hopefully it was, not too noisy, not too shaky. I'm seeing my camera shaking around again. And yeah, hopefully if you want to be part of these sessions live. They happen on Mondays, every second Monday. You can check that out in the calendar. Come and join. You'll always have an opportunity then to ask your questions and get some advice more tailored to the situation that you're in. So highly recommend that. Of course, there's also our Q&A sessions, which happen on Thursday, I believe. So check those out. And yeah, let me know if you've got any questions, and I will see you next time. All right, guys. Peace.